I've been out at Houston Texans training camp every single day.
It's football time in Houston, and we're ready to play.
And something interesting that I've noticed is that Denico Autry, one of the Texans' big free agent acquisitions this offseason, he hasn't played much at practice. And I figured, all right, maybe he's dealing with something or he's getting veteran treatment. He's 34 years old, but there's been a couple of times where I've thought to myself, not generally focusing on what's going on in the trenches. It's really hard to do that in training camp. They don't go 100%. But I'm looking at the offensive line going up against the defensive line. I'm looking for him occasionally, and then I'm like, oh, he's not there. And I'm wondering if this is the reason. Because today we found out that Texans defensive end / defensive tackle Denico Autry has been suspended for 6 games for violating the NFL's policy against performance-enhancing substances. They announced this today. Autry said in a statement the violation was because his doctors submitted a prescription for a different medication that contained a banned substance. He said he did not intentionally violate the league's policy, but accepts the punishment. You know what I found really interesting about this statement release, and you can check it out now here if you're watching along with us live, youtube.com/PaulGallant, twitch.tv/Gallant says, it looks like he scanned a Microsoft Word document or screen grabbed the Microsoft Word document, and I love it. No notes app from a 34-year-old. This man sat down and typed this out. And you know what? I have some respect for that. I hate the notes apps. Type it out like a man. Honestly, I wish everything had keyboards. Bring back Blackberries. Bring back sidekicks. My thumbs are terrible. I don't know how many people saw this, but I was tweeting out a post that I'll admit was 100% to engagement farm because I don't do so hot on the Twitter streets. And I tweeted out accidentally my phone that's got a cracked screen right now, and I got to get that fixed. At ESPN, like 975-69420 afterwards. Didn't see that until after the fact. We all need keyboards. So I respect Denico Autry for clearly typing this out on Microsoft Word. If you can't read it, I'll read it for you. Over the course of my 10-year NFL career, I have never engaged in the use of performance-enhancing drugs. Pause for a moment. I, too, have never engaged in the use of performance-enhancing drugs. High five. Continues Denico, quote, over that period, I have been subject to countless tests, none of which have ever returned a positive result. I was therefore stunned this offseason when I learned that one of my tests returned a positive result. I immediately investigated the matter and discovered that a pharmacy to which my doctor submitted a prescription for a different medication had, whether intentionally, recklessly, or negligently, included a banned substance. I want to be clear, at no time did I know or even suspect that this medication contained a banned substance. Interesting. So did the doctors fuck this up? Does sound like he's blaming the doctors, at least through 2 paragraphs. Continues Autry's statement. Upon discovering the source of the positive test, I immediately retained legal counsel in connection with this matter. My counsel provided the NFL with information, including documentation from my doctors establishing that I neither asked for nor was prescribed any banned substances. It was important to me that the NFL know that I did not intentionally or even knowingly ingest a banned substance. I understand, however, that under the NFL's policies, ultimate responsibility for what enters my body rests with me. To that end, while I intend to explore legal options pertaining to the circumstances that resulted in my positive test, I have accepted the NFL's punishment of a 6-game suspension. I want to apologize to the Texans organization, my teammates, and the fans for any distraction this may cause. Finally, I want to assure our fans that my commitment to competing to be the best of my ability has only grown, and I look forward to returning to the field. What's really funny about this statement is it's long, it's well written, and essentially it's blaming the doctors while accepting responsibility. And here's the funny thing. I actually find this statement plausible I totally can see doctors getting a prescription for something that was banned. But at the same time, it's on you to check with the doctors and check with your team doctors to make sure that everything is kosher. So blaming the doctors while accepting responsibility, it seems like it's straight out of every single athlete's playbook when they get popped for PEDs or something like that. So I'm not going to stand up here and say I stand with Denico Autry. He might be right here, but there's so many other athletes that have kind of fucked him over here where they've said something similar when they get popped. 6 games is a long time. I suppose it's the easiest stretch of the Houston Texans schedule when it comes to the quarterbacks that they are going against. We were looking at the schedule earlier this morning on my radio show, which you can hear noon to 3 on ESPN 97.5, 92.5, and 97.9 HD2. And on top of that, on our at ESPN Houston YouTube channel or on our Twitch at ESPN 975. But if you take a look at the Texans schedule this season, I'm about to pop it up on the screen really quickly here for everybody so that you can see who they are going up against. You can kind of see this here. So they're starting off the year at Indianapolis with Anthony Richardson. I think Richardson's a plus player. He's definitely better than Gardner Minshew. They host the Bears and Caleb Williams week 2, Sunday Night Football. Maybe Williams is good. I will imagine that week 2 he will not be much better than C.J. Stroud was in week 2, which was rather shaky until the very end of the game in garbage time. Was that against the Colts? Yeah, that was against the Colts because week 1 was the Ravens. At Minnesota, okay, then you're going up against a quarterback that's not very good, but home against Jacksonville, that's Trevor Lawrence. Home against Buffalo, that's Josh Allen. And then at New England. So maybe in your first 6 games where Denico Autry is suspended, worst case scenario, you're going up against 4 good quarterbacks. It's the best time of season to miss Denico Autry, but certainly not ideal. I feel like some, in fact, are being a little bit too dismissive of how much losing Denico Autry could hurt on Houston Texans, Twitter specifically. Sure, he's played 67% of snaps or less for Tennessee the past 3 years. He's also 34, so how much was he actually going to play? But he's a $10 million a year player who had 11.5 sacks last year. And I think more importantly, he has the ability to line up on the inside and get after the quarterback in addition to doing it on the outside. You can move him all over the place. So now you lose a really versatile defensive line piece. And sure, you still got waves of defenders. You've got Danielle Hunter, who you signed this offseason. You got Will Anderson. You got Mario Edwards, who they've been moving on the inside and to the outside too. You've got Jerry Hughes back. You've got Derek Barnett. Like, you've got a lot of pass rushers to throw at quarterbacks, so they're still going to be in pretty good shape. They're still going to have a great pass rush. And based off of what we've seen at training camp, I mean, they're overwhelming some of the Texans' offensive linemen. Maybe that offensive line isn't very good, but I'm sure there are some worse offensive lines in the NFL that the Texans could absolutely destroy. But to miss a $10 million a year player who had 11.5 sacks last season and has that ability to line up on the inside, you're going to miss him. You're going to miss him. You signed him this offseason, and okay, maybe you're saying to yourself, he's not going to be one of the top 3 most impactful offseason acquisitions in an offseason where you got Stephon Diggs and you got Danielle Hunter and you got Azeez Al-Shaair, among others, but you're going to miss him for a little bit. Don't dismiss this entirely. You know, you brought in 28 sacks this season in 2 players, and he's one of those 2 players. Continuing to talk about this will 100% lead somebody to start beating the drum to sign J.J. Watt, who continues to be posting thirst traps. I think the most recent one was on a boat. listen, I can appreciate a man who's in good shape, a man who's got bod goals, the bod goals that I have. Like, I want to look like J.J. Watt someday. Will that ever happen? Not without performance-enhancing drugs. Denico Autry, can you help me out? Daniil Hunter, you got huge biceps. They're extremely vascular. Can you help me out? I'm just asking the question. I'm just asking the question. My God, guys, I'm not saying that I would put unnatural things in my body. I am saying I would put unnatural things in my body to look hot. I wouldn't put other things in my body, though, okay? You know what I'm talking about. Performance-enhancing drugs. Gosh. Anyway, what else do we have here? Nothing much on Denico Autry. We found out that news at the very beginning of today's radio show, and I was a little pissed off that we brought it up because I wanted to just bask in the Astros winning 2 or 3 against the Dodgers over the weekend. That feels years ago. Reading some comments before I tell you what I saw at Texans training camp earlier. I guess it's not today. Yesterday morning, since we are recording this at 1:55 on July 30th. A lot of comments about the Yusei Kikuchi trade. And Jason Wagner, Denico Autry with the "I've been sabotaged by my nutritionist" defense. Yes, 100%. More comments. I'm sticking to the ones that are about Denico Autry and the Houston Texans here. I want to know Rick Smith's first-round hit percentage in the draft. It must be Hall of Fame level. Let's take a look. Houston Texans first-round picks. It was pretty good. I want to say that he took over, I think, after the Mario Williams pick. Maybe it was after the Amobi Okoye pick in 2008. But Dwayne Brown, who was a Pro Bowler, Brian Cushing, who was a Pro Bowler, Kareem Jackson, who had a slow start to his career, but eventually became a very good player. J.J. Watt, best defensive player ever, best Houston Texan ever. Whitney Merciless, he was a good player. DeAndre Hopkins, Jadeveon Clowney. Things got a little dicey with Kevin Johnson. I liked Will Fuller. Deshaun Watson. Yeah, they did a really good job in the first round. Rick Smith. That's hard to do. Jason says Paul won't know Rick Smith. He was part of the Chaz at the time. No, I was here. I was here for Rick Smith. I was here from 2011 to 2019, and then I left for 2 years to go up to Seattle, 2019 to 2021. Rick Smith is a fascinating story, and not everything has been told about the end of that 2017 season where ultimately Bill O'Brien took over the general manager role. It's a fascinating story. I'm curious if anyone ever does a little homework on that and puts something together. A couple of people also have commented that, just Jason Wagner again. Jason, you're the most commenty person here. Jason Wagner says, hate to be sour milk, but I think the Texans take a step back this year. Impossible schedule and no improvement on the offensive line. I think it's possible. The schedule is the 4th toughest in the NFL. The offensive line should be better because they're healthy. So I disagree from that perspective. Juice Scruggs a whole year at center going into his second season. Kenyon Green is where I have questions at left guard. And I will say the Texans offensive line has had some shaky moments in training camp practice. Laramie Tunsil being back, Titus Howard staying on the right tackle spot the entirety of a season. I think that's big. Darkman 420 says, I think the realistic win total is 9 to 10, depends on how good everyone else is. I think right now I'm going to say 11 for the season, but I don't think you're too far off. More comments here. You don't need to apologize for the Chaz joke, Jason. I got to talk about Chill Dog someday. Probably do it next year. The anniversary was about a week ago. Rudy says Seattle has the worst people. Seattle has some annoying people. There are some very nice people in Seattle too, though. I will say Mariners fans treated me great when I was up there. Seahawks fans were a little psychotic. Seahawks fans, they really think they know everything. And as someone who grew up a Patriots fan, I feel like I know everything. So there was a little bit of conflict on that front. But like, whose team won more Super Bowls? Mine. Who knows more about football because his team won more Super Bowls? Me. Suppose that's sort of how like the Crusades started. Well, actually, my gods performed more miracles. Oh, yeah? Well, my God helped me invade all of North Africa. Oh, yeah? Let's fight over it. Like, but hey, Tom Brady's a pretty good religion to have. Scooby-Doo-Wop. Defensive Co 9 on Twitch says, hello, sorry for bothering you. Well, you've bothered me, so go fuck yourself. I want to offer promotion of your channel viewers, followers, views, chat bots, etc. The price is lower than any competitor. Yeah, suck my dick. Go fuck yourself. Go fuck yourself, bot. Fuck you. With a shovel. That's not nice. That's not kind. Here's what I saw at Houston Texans training camp. Practice number 9. Either the Houston Texans defensive line is fucking awesome, without Denico Autry, by the way, or the entire Texans offensive line is getting shoved to this point. I mean, CJ Stroud, it's been a couple of days now where it seemed like he has had absolutely no time to throw the football. And when he has had time, he's been taking a lot of shots down the field. But the results have been lacking. Like, it's been a desert when he's been shooting the football downfield. Deflected passes, balls out of bounds, incomplete passes, the occasional interception. Stroud hasn't looked great the last couple of days. And if this continues, this might be the subject of tomorrow afternoon's live stream, where I'll talk about what went down at practice. Really, the offense outside of Stroud to Stephon Diggs in the passing game has not popped, and the offensive line's a big issue right now. No Laramie Tunsil. There were a couple of moments in practice today as well where Titus Howard was out, but he came back in dealing with some sort of injury. It's been stuck in quagmire to this point. As far as the rookies at Houston Texans training camp, Kamari Lassiter is already the number 2 corner. It's over already. You'll hear some players talking about him in just a moment. Caleb Bullock, the safety they drafted out of USC, he looks a lot taller than he is. He's 6'3", but he looks like one of the tallest players on the field. And he seemed to have a nice deflection on a deep pass to someone I couldn't see. We didn't have a great line of sight. Far, deep right sideline where, on the other side of the field, like 20 yards from the end zone. That ball was about 20 yards to the end zone. But he was getting tapped on the head after a play seemed to be made downfield. It was definitely an incomplete pass. So that's good to see. It seems like he's got some range. He's definitely got height. The big issue for him at USC was supposedly his tackling angles. Jawar Jordan had a nice one-cut run for 6, the 5th-round rookie running back out of Louisville. With the 3rd-string unit, he's had some receptions as well. Seems to have some nice hands. So he's actually looked pretty good. I wonder if he's actually going to get snaps as a 3rd down back or something like that. Damian Pierce is getting the most reps right now with Joe Mixon out. And the plan is Wednesday, since the Texans have the day off, to go back through everything I wasn't able to get to and react to a bunch of quotes. Blake Fisher, the tackle that they drafted, it's been rough. It has been rough. Still lots of time, though. When you're going up against Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson, you're kind of fucked. Wanted to touch on some things that I heard. You can actually hear them for yourself here. I'm not liking what I see on the offensive line in these practices, but do I know what's going on with offensive line play? Not really. I'm not focusing on it that hard. I just feel like CJ Stroud's been running for his life a lot. So D'Amico Ryans today after practice was asked about how the offensive line is coming along.
Yeah, O-line, they're doing a good job of working together and still building that right cohesiveness, and it's still coming together. But I think they're headed in the right direction. Right?
Headed in the right direction, still building. I mean, that's a polite way for a head coach to say, yeah, there's still a lot of work to do. There still is a lot of work to do. And they are getting worked by the first team defensive line. And hey, maybe that defensive line, maybe that pass rush is going to be elite, but yeah. You've also got a lot of praise for Kamari Lassiter, who had a nice deflection on a deep pass to Noah Brown. First off, here is Texan safety Jimmy Ward, the same Jimmy Ward who seemed to start a kerfuffle, a scuffle at Donnybrook with Stephon Diggs in practice a couple of days ago.
Guys like Lockdown, if that's Kamari. If guys don't know who that is, his Lockdown, got the chain, which is cool. Been making a lot of plays, like it's crazy. CB been making a lot of plays. His range out the middle of the field is it's fast.
CB, who he's referring to, is Kalen Bullock. So also nice to hear Kalen Bullock get a little compliment there. But that's the first part of Jimmy Ward, unprompted, bringing up Kamari Lassiter. Here is more Jimmy Ward, who's been around the NFL for a little bit. Also got in a fight with DeAndre Hopkins back at a Houston Texans training camp practice when he was with the 49ers and Hopkins was still here back in the day. Here is more Jimmy Ward talking about Kamari Lassiter and his nickname.
Calling it lockdown already?
Yeah, he got his name way before he even got here. But I gave him that name once I was watching him in OTAs. Like, I'm pretty. Oh, was y'all at practice in OTAs? Yeah. Oh, y'all seen it, man. I don't need to say it. Y'all seen it. Y'all seen him out there.
Jimmy, you got to play a little bit.
So, Jimmy Ward's calling him lockdown. Kamari Lassiter, second round pick out of Georgia, who is the de facto number 2 starter for the Houston Texans. Whether that's good or bad, we'll see in this coming year. He calls himself the locksmith, and he actually has like a chain with a locksmith on it. I feel like you got to wait to give yourself a nickname until you've actually done something in a real NFL game, but that's just me. That's just me. Whatever the case, he's been looking good. And I feel more comfortable with him at the number 2 corner position than I do with a Jeffrey Okudah or a CJ Henderson on their third team in 4 years after being top 10 picks back in the day. So that's Jimmy Ward talking about what he's seen out of Kamari Lassiter. Here is Noah Brown, who, as I said before, had that pass thrown his way, deflected by Lassiter, talking about the Texans' second round rookie corner.
Definitely the best young DB I've seen coming out of college that I've had the chance to go against. He's very sticky in coverage, very confident in his ability, and I think if he keeps on the pace that he's at, he could have an elite rookie season and elite career.
Elite rookie season, elite career, and one more time, the beginning of that, so you can hear what he says about him.
All the time. I think that's one of the things about our room. We have good mix of young. Definitely the best.
No, you got to go up against him sometimes in practice. How have you seen Kamari Lassiter transition from college to
definitely the best young DB I've seen coming out of college.
Definitely the best young DB I've seen coming out of college. Noah Brown's been in the NFL for a hot minute. Not forever, but that's pretty high praise. So Kamari Lassiter has been one of the stars of Houston Texans training camp, as is Derek Stingley on the other side. The defense has won a lot, and there's this cliche, not just iron sharpens iron, which the Houston Texans love to tell us all the fucking time. But there's another cliche that you'll hear, that the defense is always ahead of the offense early on in training camp. And it does feel that way. Hopefully that changes in the very near future. There's one more practice tomorrow before their preseason game Thursday against the Chicago Bears. We will have a live stream after that preseason game.